Mr.
our
Pender?
final lesson that we learned from our feedback and what we've implemented for the fall. I'll admit this is longer than I thought it would be. I thought that would be faster.
There are 6 board members here, and there are 6 lessons learned. What are you trying to tell us, Dr.
That's
Little?
just a coincidence, just a coincidence.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, and Dr. Little. The final lesson is access to mental health, physical, and emotional services that we provided during this time and where we're going with it. So I started with Project Hope, the mental wellness teams. As you know, that was part of the initiative last year. We had them in place. So when we went to the shutdown, our teams continued to meet and help families. But a good part was the Accelerate Ed plan. It required a mental health component with a referral system and triage. So we were already ready to go when that Accelerate Ed plan came out. The other part was our Lexington County mental health school-based counselors. Of course, we put all those in place last year. So as we went to shutdown, they went to teletherapy. What I heard feedback from them was some of our kids opened up for the first time, not being in a school or a clinical setting, so they gave us good information. They played a critical role when we had crisis, a death of a parent, a death of a student, a death of a faculty member. They gave us numbers since it was crisis. They didn't need to be a client. They gave us numbers that parents and students could call. For our staff, they gave us actually a virtual counseling room. They could log in, the staff could have counseling service within 5 minutes. There were certain times, and that's what they provided for us. Employee assistance program. As we learned, our employees needed counseling. They needed to do it confidentiality. So in July, our HR department launched the employee assistance program, which is a very good tool. It provides free counseling, both legal counseling, referrals, even some other services. So we have that now available to our staff, which is a good thing to have right now. Physical, talking about Dieta Broom, who is our counselor at Pleasant Hill Elementary. She does yoga. She created virtual yoga lessons for us, put it out to her school, her staff. That's now a resource we can use building on for the future to do virtual yoga lessons. Our limitations did occur as we moved to the virtual setting. Confidentiality is one of the big ones. When a student was at home, they wasn't in an environment where they could freely share domestic violence, child abuse, etc. They couldn't talk to us as openly as counselors. So that was a challenge for us because we can't guarantee that child's safe. When we did our small group counseling, we couldn't guarantee that another child, another home wouldn't hear something another student says and share that with somebody else. So that is a limitation we have to deal with. Also, our access to students. We don't have them in front of us. We can't reassure them. If they have suicidal ideations, we have to work with our community resources to make sure somebody goes out and takes care of them. So it meant a different way of doing business. But we also found out that some of our kids thrived in that environment. They didn't have to worry about how to get dressed that morning or who they had to talk to or what clothes they wore, and they were very successful. But at the same time, we had kids that struggled. They were socially isolated. They couldn't talk to one another. They had depression. So we had both sides we saw. Moving forward, we'll have a challenge with Aaron's Law. We've had real good success in our district, especially at the elementary level, where students share with us about sexual perpetrators, sexual assaults, and we get them help. But Aaron's Law requires it to be done in a safe environment where you fully disclose. If we do it in a virtual environment, that may be the actual environment where the actual acts are occurring in. That perpetrator may actually hear what we say and groom the child on how to talk to us. So it's a challenge moving forward. Engaging with Compassions Project. We launched this just before we went to shutdown. We continued it. It's a partnership we have with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, University of South Carolina, and with Department of Mental Health. Only 2 school districts in the state were selected, Sumter and Lexington won, so we're part of that. We had 8 of our elementary schools, 4 kids from each school participate. It was some intensive training. What we saw over the summer, we're trauma-informed, trauma-responsive, adverse childhood experiences. We had microaggression, how to deal with race relations, recovery rooms versus in-school suspension. But some of the things that stood out the most, we heard of tape, a 911 call, of a small child reporting what was going on in her house. And then we had a virtual walkthrough of a house based on DSS complaints, where we actually looked at what was in the house, identified what people saw. It was a powerful experience and what we learned. This is a 2-year project. We're looking at expanding the funding to train more. And what we'll also use with Title II funds, we're going to train 25 of our school counselors and school psychologists to become ACEs, train the trainers. So we can train all the elementary and go beyond that. With Google Voice, when we went to shutdown, how do we maintain our communications? They don't know how district phones. So the counselors created Google Voice accounts. It gives them a phone number where they could share with students and families so we could call and make contact. And as Dr. Rivers mentioned, we did our check-ins and our surveys during that point in time, so we found out what they needed. That became a building block with our social emotional learning hub. What we did was district-wide frameworks and commitments. We had personnel from across all 3 grade bands build that up and look at it and make it work for us. Right now, we're doing our daily SEL check-ins. We are getting very good responses. With that 2-minute check-in, kids are telling us more about what's happening to us than we've ever heard the first couple of days of school. We're finding out what's going on in their homes, what they need, what's happening. Real good information. We just completed our universal check-in surveys for students and staff. That's required by Accelerate Ed, but we also include our parents in this district. Our social workers are going to be busy because we got lots of things about what parents need, not just the kids, what parents need. So we're going to do that. I wanted to remind the board that SEL is not going away because of COVID. It was talked about before it began, and it will continue afterwards. Of course, our state departments launched their website. Their initiatives will require boards to look at how to incorporate it in your strategic plan, have a 2-year evaluation system, financial support, HR hiring practices. So it's not going away, it will continue. And the last thing I want to leave you with is something coming real soon, hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so. We will have our own Lexington One calming room. The California school counselors created a virtual calming room where you could go in and have an experience in a relaxing environment. Randy Ludlam, my director at Carolina Springs Middle, she's creating this for us. What students will have, they can do quizzes and activities. They will have activities that are physical, like yoga and stuff they can do with somebody leading them. They'll have music and art. They'll have calming videos like fireplaces and ocean waves. Of course, my favorite, I like to go in and watch the animals at the zoo. All these different aquariums and animals going on. But that's what we're building coming real soon to us in the next couple of weeks. So those are what we've launched for social and emotional. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a question, Mr. Pender. This is Jada. I know you said with Aaron's laws, there's some challenges moving forward. What are some solutions y'all have discussed?
Right now, we're waiting to see what happens second semester so we can do some more in-depth planning. We'll probably have to get with our legal counsel and make some decisions to go from there. I don't have answers on that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one of the sessions at the School Board Association was on the biofeedback rooms and how just a ton of research is being put into the amount of light that's in a room, simply having plants, the type of texture that where it's, spatially arranged in the classroom. It was really amazing stuff. And the biggest takeaway I had was particularly for special education and kids who really struggle with stimulus and those kind of things, just the dramatic impact they saw from just a standard classroom that they created biofeedbacks in. The research was staggering. I'm sure you've seen it. And it seems like it's a very low-cost kind of approach that gains a lot of a benefit, if you will.
I'll keep that in mind. We'll look at it further from here. All right, Dr. Little, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. What a wonderful job our counselors did as well, recreating most of their process and work from the ground up in a completely different virtual environment.